I'm going to call the work session Board of Education meeting to order. The first item of approval is the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. First item of new business is the presentation of substitute services. Dr. Grant.
All right, thank you very much, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Stout and Dr. Robinson as they worked through this process to make introductions.
Thank you, Dr. Grant. Good evening, board members. It's my pleasure this evening to have Kelly Services here represented with Randy Meisenheimer. Got to know her a little bit the last couple of years and appreciate her attentiveness and her willingness to come and speak to the Board of Education. So Dr. Robinson and the HR team has worked with her a lot closer than I have. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Robinson, and he can give more of a formal introduction, and then we'll get started. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We started this process as part of an effort to really focus on teachers about retention and retainment. As the teacher crisis expanded, we also were impacted by substitutes and a lack of substitutes and how that was impacting teachers' ability to have plan and filling the holes that existed when we did not have subs, and how that weighed and impacted our teachers, and in some cases wore them out. So we wanted to look at how can we help and what are some things that we could do to fill the gap, and that started this research into looking at sub-services. And that's why through our process we selected Kelly Education, and they're going to come do a presentation about their company, and then we'll have a Q&A after the presentation. All right, Ms. Brandy Meisenheimer.
Good evening. Dr. Grant, Board President, fellow board members, thank you all for having me tonight. What I'd like to do is start with a presentation about Kelly and then open it up for any questions that you have. And I'm going to step back, let me know if you can't hear me. But I'm going to try to move the microphone a little bit towards you. Sure. And we're recording the meeting, so we want you to be picked up. Okay, perfect. Can you hear me now? I think so. Okay, it's okay. When you look at the footprint of Kelly Education, we've been in business for 29 years now across the United States in 31 states. More importantly to you is where are we at in Kansas City? And we have a local office downtown on the River Market, but we also have 3 on-site locations throughout the market, which means that we have an individual from Kelly that sits at each school district, which is also what we're proposing to you. Also, myself, I live in Blue Springs, and I've been with Kelly for 22 years, so not planning on going anywhere. And then our client services manager, he wasn't able to make it tonight, he's not feeling well, but he will manage the on-site here. He's been with Kelly for 8 years, so lots of tenure and the local presence. This is what we call the wheel, and this is what we're doing every day, which makes us different from a district, is because we're performing this every single day, focusing solely on substitutes. How we're recruiting. We're in your market. We want to attend things with you. We want to attend things here, focusing on your neighborhoods and the people living in your community. But also some things that we've done in the community is attending like St. Patrick's Day parades, where we know there's lots of people handing out goodies, QR codes, all of those things. There's a kite festival that they attend every year, where over 15,000 people attend. So we're also engaged in those things, making sure that we recruit for you. And that, again, is happening every day, 12 months a year, not just several months throughout the year. What we are doing every day, and this is going to be for your new hire individuals. This is not what your transition substitutes would go through. They go through a behavioral interview, then they attend our training that they have to take and pass. And that's role-specific training. So if they're a teacher, they're going to take the teacher training. If they're a para, they're going to take the para training. What's not mentioned in here is also Kelly is the only staffing company that has partnered with DESE to give that training, the training to become a substitute if you don't have the college credit hours. We have been approved by DESE to give that training, and our training is on the DESE website, so you can view that too if you'd like. But we will also be able to utilize that as we build a pool for independents specifically. With that though, we have 2,000 individuals that we've already hired in your community that you'll be able to tap into should they want to come to work for independents. If they don't, we don't mandate anyone go anywhere. So your transition substitutes, if they're happy here, they're not going to be asked to move anywhere else. And if they want to move, they likely already have. And you're just not aware that they're working in multiple school districts. This is a piece on our training. Not only do we do the pre-hire training, but also we have post-hire professional development. Every month, each employee gets a newsletter where there's at least 3 topics that they can take for professional development. It is not mandatory, but if you have somebody fresh out of school that wants to be a teacher, that's substituting to see if this is the right move for them, they can also take some PD classes to make sure that in the future, they're ready for that teaching role. On top of your local presence here, we also have a call center that is open extended hours, and they are specifically there to schedule absences. So if you've got a teacher at home that's sick, or maybe at a hospital and doesn't have access to any type of technology to log their absence, they can call this number and they'll put it in for them. But those people are also making outbound calls each and every day to fill those last minute absences so that we're not dependent on technology. Everything is included in our price. You will not have any charges from Kelly unless there's someone working in your building. There's not an implementation fee, a finance fee, a fee for anything that we do, including incentives, because we evaluate your absences and understand those priority days, like in Kansas City, the day after the Super Bowl, when we know that you're going to have high absences, and we offer incentives to the substitutes to try to get additional people to work. None of that is charged to the district. Also, orientation. We orientate everyone, your transition substitutes, because we want them to know what great things they're going to have as a Kelly individual. But also, our new hires, we want them to understand all of the policies, dress code, etc., for independents specifically. That is paid by Kelly and not charged to the district. Again, the benefits for our substitutes. Much different than a district. We offer weekly pay, and then each individual that works for Kelly has the ability to take advantage of our medical, dental, whole life insurance, major medical, whatever works for them. And oftentimes it's just a supplement what they have. For instance, if you have a kiddo that's getting braces and your spouse has dental insurance that caps out at $1,500, you can hop on the dental insurance where you have 2 pieces that you can utilize for those braces, or eye care, whatever's needed. We also have an option for 401k. If they want to utilize their 401k option, they can invest in 401k too. Also with our benefits, something that differentiates Kelly is summer. Summer is difficult for substitute teachers. And being a part of Kelly Services, our substitute teachers will have the ability to talk to our Kelly Services friends if they want to continue to substitute but need that summer employment, where they can go work at our commercial friends, is what we call them, but you think of Pepsi or Coke or the law firms downtown that need administrative help, they can go work for the summer there and then come back to us in the fall. What it looks like as we make that transition. This is our implementation calendar, what it would look like. All of the pieces that go into implementation. Implementation starts right after you agree that Kelly will be a good partner for you. And what happens then is we start with 2 teams deployed. One focuses on implementation, making sure that your technology, all of those things is working. But our second deployment team is a recruiting team. So we have multiple people on the ground in your community, starting with recruiting, transitioning your current substitute pool, making sure that everybody is comfortable with Kelly Education and they know us, so we're not strangers to them. And then we continue to move through. As we get closer to the start of school, we'll do district training so that the principals and the secretaries are comfortable with what that looks like for their new day-to-day. Secretaries aren't going to need to spend as much time. They get their time back in the day. Principals aren't going to have to be mentoring, coaching, counseling, terminating substitutes. We're going to take that off their plate. And more importantly, teachers are going to get back their plan time so that they're not covering classrooms and they're going to go home and not have work on their plate at night. After that, we do a pre-go live, which means that we make sure all the systems are up and running, everybody can put in their absences, and then after go live, we do a 45-day review to make sure that everything is what we said it is. Oftentimes, decisions made in implementation, we may need to tweak a little bit because what the district thought may work really well might not be working quite as well as we thought. So we still have the opportunity to change whatever needs to be changing. But your account team, which would be Keith, my peer that wasn't able to come tonight, you're on site here, and then 13 other individuals just living in Kansas City. And above and beyond that, they're all going to be in touch with the district at all times. We do partnership reviews twice a year to provide you all the data that you need down to school specific so that we can see if there's a school struggling, that we need to focus our recruiting efforts in that area, making sure that the district as a whole has a high fill rate. Thank you again for the opportunity. We are very excited to partner with Independence School District.
Hi Kelly, my name is Anthony Mondane. I just had a quick question. I did not get your last name. Randy, I apologize.
That's okay, it happens all the
I
time.
bet it does, I'm sorry.
I was going to wear a green jacket tonight, but then everybody's always like, oh, the Kelly Green.
Yeah. What was your last name?
Meisenheimer.
Meisenheimer. Okay, thank you. Earlier, I heard when you were sharing about the 29 years you've been in existence that there was partnerships locally already. I don't know if you referenced what districts and if that's okay to share.
Yeah, of course. So currently in the Kansas City market, we support 6 school districts, 6 major school districts, and they are Lee Summit, Liberty, Shawnee Mission, Hickman Mills, Grandview, and Kansas City Public Schools. Lee Summit, we've been a partner with them since 2015. Liberty, 2017. Shawnee Mission, 2017. Hickman Mills, I believe it was 2017. Grandview, 2018, 19, and Kansas City Public was about the same.
I will say that I know throughout the process, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Stout, Dr. Robinson, you specifically spoke with, reached out to Shawnee Mission, Lee Summit, as well as Liberty, correct?
That's correct. Oh, Dr. Robinson did? Okay.
Rate for the, like, just an average fill rate for the Kansas City area of those combined schools?
I have the fill rates for each individual school if you would like.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, so in Lee Summit currently we're at a 96%, Liberty at 93%, Shawnee Mission at 97%, Hickman Mills 86%, Grandview 80%, equally for Kansas City Public Schools.
And Dr. Grant, what is our current fill rate?
That's what I was just gonna say, we're right around 70% this year.
And if I could share too, when you talk about fill rates, Kelly is different when we calculate our fill rates. And the reason I say that is our fill rates are real time. So oftentimes you'll see companies, they shut off the fill rate calculation after 5 p.m. Ours are always real time. So if there's an absence put in at 8 a.m., that still counts against our fill rate. And really, when we look nationwide, there's about 22% of absences that happen overnight.
You talked about systems being in place, just kind of trying to imagine this. Does the administration at each building put down when they need somebody, or does a teacher enter in when they need somebody? How does that, can you just kind of walk me through that a little bit?
Yes, of course. And I apologize that I don't know exactly, but I'm going to assume here, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But we also use Frontline. So when you look at usernames and access and all of that, that's not going to change for your teachers. It's just going to look a tad bit different because they're going to go to a different spot. But we'll train them on that. But their username and everything remains the same. And just as they do today, if a teacher needs a substitute, she or he would put in their absence, and then it flows to us. As far as access to our system, everybody that has access now will remain having the same access. So each principal will have campus user access, district office would have super user access, so none of that's going to change. And basically what we do as far as technology and implementation, just two things. So we're going to make sure how your systems are integrated now, meaning Frontline to your back office system is everything you dreamed of, because if not, it's a great time to take a look at that. If it's not integrating properly, we'll take the time to make sure that the integration is then proper as what you need. And then also we're going to build a streamline to our back office system from that Frontline, because we pay weekly, so then all of those absences will flow into our back office system for payment.
So I will say that our process will remain the same, where teachers will call and report their absence, or parents to their administrator, and the administrator will do it. We're not going to change that process.
So there's not a possibility of, like, I just see that as maybe a relief on the administrators for the teachers to be able to enter that in and then not to have to be a middleman?
Eventually, maybe, but as we start, we're going to keep the process the same.
Is that reflected in the soft cost savings? Because right now we have 1.5 hours per day at each building for $139,000 in our estimate.
Can you talk about the soft costs?
Of course. So soft costs are associated with people that are, it's not their dedicated job to complete, but a portion of their job. So oftentimes secretaries will spend many hours a day touching substitutes, moving them around, calling for last minute placements, which won't be necessary. Also, when you think of people that might not be compensated, like if you have a counselor or a music teacher may not be compensated if they are covering a plan, those are also associated with soft costs because they might not be compensated for that. But then when you look at principal responsibilities too, that is also associated with soft costs. Then you move to a district level and you have payroll individuals that a portion of their job is to process payroll. And that's usually a large amount of their time associated just with processing payroll to make sure all of the things are approved and everything is okay to make payment. That will be removed too, and that will be a Kelly responsibility.
But I just want to confirm that the admin time that is not included in the soft cost savings, because they'll still be doing that.
So they would
phone
still
call.
be doing that piece, but then like for interviews for substitutes, sometimes we use principals to help interview, all of that, pulling them out. So that would be included.
Is there maybe like a report that you offer the district for like a tracking of absences or tardies or whatever? Is that something you guys maintain and produce to the district at all?
So all of the reports that are in Frontline that your users are currently using will still be available for them. Your principals will still get an email if they do not. If they don't now, they will at 6 a.m. and 11 a.m. stating who is going to be out, who the substitute is, and then at the 11 o'clock email showcases any changes that happened in between then. But also, if there are reports that you're wanting that maybe take a lot of time for someone in district office to pull, every month we can have that conversation during implementation, and we set that up as the account manager's here's responsibility. If it's weekly, monthly, before a board meeting, any of those things, so that they know when those are due. And then if there's something that is ongoing that you want monthly, then we set that up for an auto send, so it's automatically pushed to you on the day needed.
What
And when
kind
you-
of, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, when you talk about reporting too, we utilize another piece too, outside of Frontline, Power BI, that's specific to Kelly, and that's monitoring your participation rate, which is very important. It monitors multiple things, but it's very important for the participation rate because we can have a pool of 800 individuals, but if they're only working once, that 800 pool isn't doing us any good. So the client services team is responsible to monitor the Power BI. It's okay if people only want to work once a month, but we need to understand that and we need to adjust our pool size to that. We don't want to hire too many because then we have people unhappy because they can't work. And then the people that want to work certain days might not be able to pick up assignments. So it's a science that we use to determine what that pool looks like and how many people should be in the pool. But that's something that's also evaluated through Power BI. And you'll also see significant amounts of reports that come from Power BI versus Frontline.
What is some feedback that you've received after school districts have signed with Kelly Services? You know, do they feel like they have a better sub-fill rate? I mean,
Of course, yes. And the fill rate is up. Your teacher morale is up, as I mentioned. Teacher retention is usually also something in soft costs that are looked at because when teachers are happy, they stay. And so if they have their plan period and they can take off and not feel bad for their friend that's going to absorb their classroom, they're happier and they come to work and they stay. So that has also been something that we've heard a lot. And then the fill rate overall, your principals are happy, there's continuity in the classroom, and they're seeing the same people every day. Your teachers are still going to have the option. Nothing changes there. It really, as far as substitutes, they're going to have access to benefits. Their payroll comes from a different place. But if they only want to work in one building and they only want to work for one teacher, that's okay. If they want to work 5 days a week, we love it. But we cater to what they're looking for, so we make certain everyone is happy.
Can a principal request a certain sub,
Of course.
like for a long-term sub position?
Of course. So anytime that you have a long-term opening, we have multiple ways of coordinating how that works. But even if it's a short-term, if a teacher is going to be out for 2 days, they still have the ability to identify a substitute. We do ask that they have a conversation with a substitute so the substitute knows they're coming, but they'll have a functionality, just like they do today in Frontline, to hit save and assign. And then that substitute gets the confirmation number that they're going to be on that.
right, we have a list that you can type in that person's name and assign it. And that is the understanding, you've already talked to them before you assign them.
Right.
So that's, I teach at Liberty, so, and I think that works great. I teach foreign language, so we always want specific people. And it generally works out really well. I just text my usual subs, I'm like, are you available these dates? And it's really simple.
It's the same process.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience as a teacher utilizing it and just being in the district? I think it'd be great for everyone to hear.
So it's super easy. We do use Frontline. We go into Frontline. You can select your dates, and there is a list of people to choose from. And if you don't have a specific request, you can go ahead and just bypass that step. And there is a click of a principal approval. So, but if it's just a single day, there's really no conversation whatsoever. Put in your day and do that. And as long as there's a cutoff, for example, I think ours is by 7 a.m. because we start at 8:10, maybe 6:30. So you can still plug it in the morning, even if you know, for example, me, wake up with a sick kid, I can just get in the system and request my sub and really feel like I'm not bothering anyone either, and get my sub plans in immediately. And there is even a space for you to insert a document to link whatever your plans are. So there's really high level of, I feel like, communication opportunities with the sub, with administration, whatever. And then I usually get an email that says, principal approved, good to go.
And I had one question. So for districts who have transferred from in-house sub-services to Kelly, about how many of those substitutes transitioned?
Usually we see over 90%.
And what are the reasons for not transitioning?
Oftentimes that 90% are substitutes that really were actively working and they were on the roster. They may pick something up if the perfect day comes and they don't have other responsibilities, but it's not something that they were actively doing. So then they decide at that point that they don't want to transition and that they would prefer just not to substitute anymore.
I have one question, and that is, you have a lot of different benefits.
Yes.
And I've actually used Kelly for years, off and on. So,
Oh.
Not on education, but they did a great job. But
Thank
there's so
you.
many different benefits and options, which is pretty cool. So does the substitute have to work so many hours per month to be eligible for different ones? Is it all different, or how does that work?
So after they are employed with Kelly, they do not have to work. We encourage them to work, but they do not have to work a minimum amount of hours to continue their benefits. Now, they will have to work once, and this is not just for benefits, but overall, each substitute does have to work one time every 150 days. And we let them know it's coming and encourage them to take absences. But after 150 days of not working, we take them out of the system. They're not terminated, but we remove them for multiple reasons. One is so that we have a clean list, so we don't have our individuals calling on people that aren't going to work. But secondly, we want to make sure that nothing has transpired in those 150 days that was preventing them from working. So we take them out and then we run a background check on them before we allow them to come back to work.
Love that. That's fantastic. I did have a question. So out of the 31 states that you all serve already, are any of the districts that you're serving now 4-day school week?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't tell you who because
Okay.
they're only because they're rural districts. So it's not something I'm overly familiar with, but yes, we have had 4-day school weeks, but not in large cities. So that will be different for us.
Yeah, so
That-
fantastic. I'm just curious to know if there's anything that stands out that's unique about their experience as a 4-day school week with Kelly?
You know, I would have to, I'm happy to dive into that and get back to you with that answer. What I will say is we were super excited for opposite reasons to partner with you. One is because we can recruit people that are only interested in working 4 days a week, but others, the people that want to work 5 days a week, we surround you with neighboring districts. So if it's important to them to work every day, they can scoot over to another district and they don't have to fill out any more paperwork or anything like that. They can just go to another district to work that day.
Can you talk about how the sub pay compares for through Kelly versus an in-house sub?
It does, it's the same. So we pay exactly what the district pays, and that never changes. If your neighboring partners increase their pay and it's impacting your fill rate, as a partner, we will come to you and share that with you. But unless you give us the approval, which we know needs to come to board, and we have new contracts to sign and all of those pieces, nothing changes in the pay.
And does buildings still have priority subs if they use Kelly, or does that go away?
So
That will go away. The purpose of the priority sub is to help buildings.
And then the last thing is this part of the employment contract with the union, does it need to go through them before we make changes?
No.
Can you tell me what the starting fill rate was for like Hickman Mills and Kansas City, Grandview maybe? Like how much their fill rate increased?
all three of those districts were 45% or below.
Cool. So almost doubled. You also said, hold on, I noted. That the transition sub-process was a little different, so if they're already employed by ISD, what does that look like?
So we ask them to come to an orientation with us, and really that's so they get to know us. So we're not scary, and we get to know them, and they feel comfortable making that transition. But also to hear the great benefits that they're going to have, we want them to take advantage of that. And if we just send them a link to a brochure, how many of those do we all get? They may or may not look at them. But secondly, we need to make certain that they fill out all of their employment paperwork. We do ask that they do that online so they have to spend less time hanging out with us. But if there's somebody struggling, then that gives them the opportunity to come in and sit down with one of our recruiters and fill out all of their paperwork. And then we are going to run a background again to make sure nothing has transpired since their fingerprints before they move to Kelly payroll. But it's a very simplistic process. So when we talked about the pre-screen, the interview, the training, they don't have to do any of that. We take your stamp of approval and just move through to the tax paperwork.
I appreciate that. I like the benefit too of getting a second background.
Yeah, and really the only time, we do also ask them if they've ever been employed here before on our new hires. And that's the only time we really need to engage HR, because if they have worked here and they're not on your transition list, we're going to make sure that they're on the employment is okay to move forward with instead of the do not employ list.
I just had a couple of questions on the financials from the cost comparison. Right now, the sub-services wages are listed as the same, but my understanding is that there is a 27% on top of what we would pay the substitutes, what our rate is, in order to pay for your services and everything that that includes. So I'm curious how those numbers can stay the same, especially if we're expecting our sub rate to increase, our fill rate.
So the number, when you look at what you're putting into moving from a district-led program to moving to Kelly, there's several things that we take away that are cost to the district. One thing is frontline. So frontline that you pay for now comes in our markup.
Yes, and that's included on this list. I'm just looking at that top line. Both of them say 1.4 million in sub-services wages, and so right now they're equal for Kelly and ISD, but I'm curious how that works where you guys will still make something off of that because of the 27% increase.
What I will say is that our cost savings will come from not having the priority subs. If that is the question that you're asking.
No, because that's not listed on here, and I'm assuming it's not in the soft cost savings. So are we including our priority subs in that 1.42?
No, so these are numbers that we received from the district in 2024 that we utilized to build this cost comparison. If you look all the way at the bottom, there's a slight cost savings to the district, very slight cost. And one thing to take into consideration when you look at payroll costs, for easy math, if you pay $100, that's not what the district is paying. There's payroll taxes and things associated with that, which is where it kind of balances out from Kelly. Because if you look at a 13% payroll cost and then 27 to Kelly, we're narrowing the gap everywhere we go. There's a slight cost savings when you take out the priority substitutes, but then when you include them, there's about a $500,000 cost savings. That's not included on this document.
We wouldn't be paying the workers' compensation anymore.
That's
You
correct.
all take that over, so, which is an audible policy, so I don't know how much that would save us, Dr. Stout, but that would save some throughout the year.
So,
And then it's listed as 71,000 that we're currently paying, yes.
so also when you think about workers' comp, oftentimes your insurance is based on how many people you have paid. And so you're going to take hundreds of people off of your payroll. So your annual premiums, outside of the cost of what your accidents have been, but your annual premium should go down significantly as well, because the cost of people that you're employing, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we did an absence analysis about a year ago, and there were, I'm going to guess, 100 people that worked here that worked 10 days or less in a substitute capacity, but that's still cycling through your payroll. Not to mention the time, effort, and energy it costs to recruit, hire, and train those individuals.
So can we expect then, I guess, I'm sorry that I keep belaboring this point, I'm just really confused how those two costs can be the same if we're hoping for a higher fill rate and more substitute teachers, the 1.42
So-
million. I just want to make sure that we're knowing what we're getting into.
So this cost comparison is on your current fill rate. So you're absolutely correct when you say, should your costs go up a tad bit? Absolutely, because we're going to increase your fill rate.
And so then we would also see the 27% on top of that. So if we were and if we were still having substitutes in-house and kept them there, then we would be paying our rate. But with yours, we would also be paying the 27% on top of that for each one of those that we
That's
fill.
correct. But you're already, even on your payroll, you're paying a portion of that 27%. It's just not on the sheet. Because you're paying payroll taxes, workers' comp, unemployment, all of those pieces.
Okay, so is that I'm sorry, is the 27%, is that what that 186,549 is then? Because that's your Fed, FUTA, SUTA, WC, background, frontline.
That's a cost for Kelly, not for the district.
Okay, so that's not included in the 27%.
Everything is included in the 27%.
Okay, so that is included. Okay,
There's not a cost outside of the 27% that you will be charged.
okay. So the extra expenses plus the 1.4 would equal 27%. So everything, the Kelly MU, and I'm sorry, what is the Kelly MU 1.27?
The markup.
Okay, that's what that is. So that's the 27%.
So for easy math, if you paid substitutes $100 now, your bill rate would be $127. We are going to near our adjournment for this work session, so I want to make sure that if anybody has one last question, you have the opportunity to do that. We're getting ready to adjourn. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. We didn't need a roll call for a work session, that's correct, right?